this is something that I did, which was absolutely key in finding Angy. Cultivate a reverential attitude towards the feminine. Another way is a more mystical way, and that is goddess worship. If you watched this video so far and on this channel, then I'm sure that you have, as a man, a goddess worshiper within you. Shall we talk about the ritual that you did?
Yes, because that was honestly crazy. I went into that so deep. Like, I felt it. I felt like he was right next to me. And then, I kid you not, 2 months after, he just suddenly appears. He just suddenly appears, you know?
Welcome to the Occult Observer. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. My partner, my soulmate, Angy.
Hello.
Today Angy and I are going to be talking about how you can find your soulmate. And to do that, we will of course draw upon our own experiences, what we did to find each other. And of course, give you advice in this regard that you can apply whoever you are, wherever you are, and whoever your soulmate is. But before we get into these steps for finding a soulmate, shall we first and foremost define what a soulmate is, at least from our perspective?
Yeah.
Because you have the belief that we actually have multiple soulmates in our life.
Yeah, I do think that we have multiple soulmates in our life. Soulmates being not just romantic relationships, but also family and friends and so on. But in this video, obviously, we're going to focus on romantic relationships.
The romantic soulmates.
You know, the
yes.
romantic partner, the life partner, the one you grow with, the one you do life with, and how to attract that soulmate.
And basically the reason why we want to talk about this is because we found it to be probably the greatest spiritual, psychological, emotional growth facilitator, actually.
Absolutely. And I think relationships in general are that, especially romantic relationships, because you get so close with each other.
Yeah.
So intimate.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what we think a soulmate relationship is really all about. It's about being really intimate with each other, going deep, seeing each other, intimacy, you could say.
Yeah, and not just physical intimacy, not just emotional, not just mental, but spiritual, right? And I think that's where you enter that soulmate sphere, is when it's spiritual and when that spirituality is infusing the mind, the emotions, and the body, and it becomes a spiritual enterprise. Yeah. And of course, that has to do with truth, right? You're seeing each other, and that includes, your potentials, your assets, the things that are harmonized in your being, but also those pesky little flaws that we can hide in other relationships, right? With our family, with our friends. But when you are with a soulmate and when it is so intimate, that's where you cannot hide anymore.
No.
You see the other see you, and from that, growth happens, like a plant growing from receiving the light from the sun. To apply some occult terminology, this is after all an occult channel, then we can compare soulmateship with alchemy. In fact, Angy and I, we were at an exhibition, an occult exhibition, where we got to see some old school medieval alchemical texts and drawings. And what you'll find in these artworks is an emphasis on the unity between the masculine and the feminine, what they call the Hieros Gamos, the holy marriage. Because alchemy is an internal process, right? You are your own laboratory, and so this unity is really a unity between your inner masculine and your inner feminine, your sulfur and your salt, as the alchemists used to call it, of course veiling this dynamic in allegorical language. However, in occultism, we of course also have this understanding of as above, so below, as within, so without. So once you attain something either internally or externally, it will sort of mirror back into its opposite. So when you have a relationship and when you have that unity of the feminine and the masculine, you can best be sure that this unity is also happening within you. And you even described this to me wonderfully earlier today when we were talking about the video, the reason why women are attracted towards masculinity and why men are attracted towards femininity.
Yeah. So basically how I see it is when we are incarnating as a man or a woman, we sort of leave behind in the unconscious that feminine and masculine aspect of ourselves. And that is unconscious. That's an unconscious aspect of ourselves, and that's why when we see that, when we encounter something like it, so masculine energy, when I encounter this now here as a woman, you know, I'm gonna be extremely drawn to that, me being heterosexual obviously, you know, but I'm gonna be extremely drawn to that. You might be familiar with the terms anima and animus and Jungian psychology, which is also quite inspired by alchemy.
Very much so, yes.
You know, those unconscious male or female aspects of ourselves, of our psyche. And that's why we find that so attractive when we encounter it.
Opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
And again, we also see this in homosexual same-sex relationships as well. We still have that feminine and masculine polarity.
Yeah.
So soulmateship goes for everyone. It's in that sense very quote-unquote democratic. Again, everyone has a soulmate. And but again, we are playing with these energies, right? With the masculine and feminine energies. Because in the end, the goal is divine union. It is to become a unified human being, to become a spiritual androgynous being.
Essentially, it being about integration, you know, integrating those different aspects of our psyche. And yeah.
Yes. And without further ado, shall we jump into the steps of finding your soulmate?
Yes.
All right, the first step is actually a step inwards, namely self-inquiry. The relationship that you have to develop first, before you can meet your soulmate, is the relationship that you have with yourself. You have to, in other words, sort out your own rose garden before you can attract the person in your life that is meant for you. Because we are, let's just face it, quite the mystery to ourselves. So the first thing that we really did was not to be like, we want a soulmate, we want to be in a relationship. No, it was really to build that relationship with ourselves. And what does it involve?
Yeah. I mean, really about understanding oneself, you know? Like you said,
yes.
We are quite the mystery and we're very complex beings, and a lot of stuff is very unconscious and kind of just doing the work, you know? I mean, I did that at least a lot. I did a lot of shadow work. I did mirror work, for example. I love mirror work to connect with oneself and go really deep into one's psyche. Meditation, hypnosis, and stuff like that, you know, to really dig deep, especially when it comes to also traumas and so on and so forth, and really sorting yourself out there, or at least like really understanding yourself on a very, very deep level and building that intimacy with yourself, building that deep connection with yourself, really getting to the core of who you are as a being and knowing what your needs are, knowing what your values are, knowing who you are, you know, knowing what you are good at, knowing your weaknesses, your interests, all of it, you know, like really getting to know yourself on a deep, deep level.
Yeah, so that's the first step, right? Of this internal inventory that is self-awareness.
Yeah.
The next step is self-acceptance.
Yeah, and that's usually a natural byproduct of you being very aware of yourself and really digging deep. Usually we start to develop compassion with ourselves, you know, we realize, oh wait, those weaknesses that I have, those psychological complexes that I have, they come from somewhere and they are valid as in they have a reason to be there. And we essentially develop coping mechanisms, you know, coping with whatever we've been through in ways that at that point in time have helped us through it, you know, which might not be great now.
So this self-acceptance is really about loving yourself, right? It doesn't mean that you approve of everything. It doesn't mean that you only look at your strengths and all those really strong parts of yourself. But it means simply accepting all that you are at current. And that leads us to the third step in this self part of attracting your soulmate. And that has to do with self-improvement. Because we are all messy beings. We are all traumatized in some way. I mean, even just being born is probably traumatized, right? So self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-improvement.
Yeah, and self-improvement really like coming from a place, from a self-loving place, from a place of self-acceptance, and not from a place of, oh, I'm messed up, I have to be different, I have to change, I'm not good enough, you know? Because that's not a self-loving place to come from. And we want to be at peace with ourselves, you know, ultimately, which definitely is a process, you know? That's not something that we will probably work out very fast. That tends to be a quite long process, or just a life process, you know? Yeah, I think it's important to make that distinction when it comes to self-improvement, to really make that distinction of us improving out of self-love because we want to improve, not because we feel like we have to, you know?
It's almost like an artwork, right? Imagine like a sculptor, right? The sculptor loves the process of sculpting, right? The statue might not be exactly where he would like it to be, but there is love being poured into that process. So, and even have fun with it as well. Yeah. Getting to know yourself, right? See it as like when you get to know a person, right? That is interesting, right? And even though they have some flaws and some stuff that they need to sort out, that doesn't mean that you like them less. You might even find them even more interesting, right? And you gain compassion for those parts, right? So yeah, treat yourself how you treat, well, that soulmate that is waiting for you, right? So,
and listen, you're born alone and you'll die alone. You know, you might as well build a really good relationship with yourself because you are always present in your life, you know? You will, there's no escaping yourself. And why should you, you know? So really building that deep relationship, and you might go to therapy, you might have to go to therapy, you might have to do, you know, you might have to get help doing that, sorting yourself out, getting to know yourself on a very deep level. But yeah, that's kind of what this first thing that we really have to do is all about.
And of course, recognize your own worth. Realize that you are a catch. Anything else you want to touch upon here regarding the whole Know Thyself chapter of the video?
Yeah, I think that was pretty much it, yeah. I think maybe you could also mention for the like self-improvement aspect, also improving yourself as a partner, you know, learning your, developing your capacity to be in a relationship, your capacity to be a good partner, learning relationship skills and so on and so forth can also be very helpful, obviously. Because you'll attract a good partner and you'll be a match to a good partner if you yourself are able to be a good partner as well, and can then recognize what good partnership traits, you know, what are good traits in a person, you know? You know what I mean?
Yes. Once you have done your self-inquiry, accepted yourself, worked on yourself, but most importantly, really connected to yourself, it's time to show up as yourself, as your authentic being, because your soulmate does not want your false self, does not want your ego, does not want your persona. They want you for you. And they're not going to be able to find you if you show up each and every day as someone else. So shine as yourself, light the lighthouse, so that your soulmate can find you in the sea of life, right? So they can actually spot you. Because if you, again, show up with civil masks on, maybe they can sense there is something beneath, but it would be infinitely easier if you actually just shine your light, you know? Shine your light each and every day. Not because you're like, oh, I hope my soulmate's out there to see me, but just that's who you are, right? So after you have attained self-knowledge, attained self-awareness, it's time to really express that. And you do that every day. You do that in your career. You do that with your friends, with your family. It's everything. It's how you dress, it's how you walk, it's how you talk.
Yeah, so obviously once you establish a deeper connection with yourself and you know yourself a lot more, you can then also take the steps to be on your authentic path, to really follow your heart, follow your joy, and express yourself as that. Express yourself as your authentic self, you know? If you want a soulmate connection, you want a real connection, you know, really intimate, real, deep, honest connection. You don't want the, you know, ego games, the fake shit. You want the real stuff. So you have to show up as the real stuff. You have to show up as your real self, obviously. Otherwise, they can't find you. And I remember what like I did back then, and how Janos found me was on Instagram, and I started posting about things that interested me, which was largely around spirituality, and especially I did some posts on the masculine and feminine spiritual path, and that's kind of the thing that we connected on. And that was always something that I was kind of afraid of putting my thoughts and beliefs out there, because I was, you know, wasn't very like, I don't know, it was a little bit scary, but I did it, and I wanted to show up as myself, and I wanted to make friendships that are honest and deep, and friends that are on my wavelength, you know, on the same wavelength as I am. So I did that, and that definitely paid off.
That paid off because, and this is no joke, you were my favorite Instagrammer when you were posting. And this was before we even talked. I commented on one of your posts.
Yeah.
And then for several months we didn't engage after that. But I was still, every time you dropped a story, I was watching that story and I was saving screenshots. And yeah, I was absolutely loving it. But so you did that, right? And if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have found you.
No.
Quite simple.
Yeah.
And you
have to put yourself out there. You
have to put yourself out there. And that was not easy, right? You were afraid of being judged,
yeah,
right?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, but you did it anyway.
Yeah.
You followed your heart.
Yeah.
So you got to be vulnerable, right? You got to show the world who you are. And that way, by opening up and showing who you are, your soulmate will see who you are, you know? Another massive benefit of being authentic is that when you are doing what you love, expressing yourself, whether that is just the way you show up every day, whether it's through creative pursuits, socially, whatever, you are entering the state of consciousness that Abraham Maslow called self-actualization. And this is where you are coming from within, where you are essentially not in a state of deficiency, such as when you are hungry, when you are lonely, whatever the case may be, unsafe. No, you're actually just being the overflowing cup, right? So you are filling yourself up with joy, with bliss, with yourself, right? You're being high in your own supply, if you will. And that is the least desperate state that you can be in. And if you know about manifestation, then you know that the worst place you can be in if you want something is in a state of perceived lack, is in a state of desperation where you are hungering and thirsting for a certain thing.
Because think about it, what do you do if you do that? If you're hungry and thirsty for something, when you say, I really, really want this, I really, really want this, what you're essentially saying is, I really, really don't have this, I really, really don't have this. You feel, it's an energy of you being extremely distant from it, you know, being very far away from it, you know?
Exactly.
What you have to do is you have to embrace, essentially, if you want to manifest a soulmate relationship, you have to embrace that feeling. What feeling would it give you? You know, like it would make you feel very fulfilled, very at ease, very joyful.
And where you can be yourself,
love.
right?
Yeah, being yourself. You would express yourself even more, you know. So expressing that energy and really living that on a daily basis, having things going for you, having a life that is joyful and that you love, and essentially being able to be alone.
That's the thing, right? So, and I truly believe this, and this is basically a mindset that we both had, and we both cultivated. It was the following: we were okay with being alone for the rest of our lives, romantically speaking, right?
Yep.
It doesn't mean that we were like, yay, we're gonna be alone, but it wasn't either being like, oh, we're gonna be alone, right? It was like, if I don't meet my soulmate, I would love to. I would really, really love to. If it doesn't happen, that's okay too.
Yeah.
So we wanted a soulmate, right? We both had that intention, right? I was talking with my father about it, my friends about it, that I wanted to meet my Luna girl. I wanted to meet my high priestess. So this is something that I had as a goal, but it wasn't the end all be all where if I don't achieve this, my life is a failure. I'm going to be just lonely and, it's kind of like this graveyard mentality of like either or. Either I get my soulmate and I can actually be alive and joyful, or I'm just going to be basically a walking corpse. No, I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna go out there and have a ball. You know, I'm gonna dance, and if my soulmate joins me, that's gonna be so amazing. But if not, I'm still gonna show some moves on the dance floor and just go at it.
So absolute key, the ability to be alone, the ability to be with yourself and to have fun with yourself. I mean, essentially, I feel like the goal is to create a life that is so beautiful, so joyous, that you love so much, and being with friends and family that you love and are very close to, so that you don't feel desperate to find your soulmate because they will complete you and will make your life worth living and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Realizing even if I don't meet them, or even if I meet them very later than I would like, I can make my life so beautiful. You know, I can have friends, I can have family, I can have my hobbies, I can do my, you know, the work that I want to do in the world, or whatever it is that you love to do, whatever your authentic path is, but really engaging with that and engaging with yourself. And like we said, develop that deep relationship with yourself, really becoming your best friend. And going through life like that, you know, so that you don't feel like you have to settle for someone less than someone other than that soulmate relationship that you want to attract, you know?
Yeah, and also like ideally you would want to create soul connections throughout your life, right? Not just in your romantic relationship, but also a soul connection to your career, right? A career that really speaks to you, that is aligned with your inclinations and interests and passions and gifts and skills. And of course also with your friends, right? And of course also with basically anything, right? The music you listen to. Of course we can't, life happens, right? We don't pick our parents, maybe we do, but at least sometimes we have a family member that might not be most aligned with who we are, or we might not have a job that is the most aligned. But to the best of our ability, I would say cultivate those soul connections. It's not just about being able to be authentic in our relationships, but throughout our whole life. When you come from that place of authenticity, you will also have a way more sort of clear understanding of what it is you actually do want in your life, what is right for you, right? So if you have friends that are right for you, career that is right for you, you live in a place that is right for you, you dress in a way that is right for you, then you are also in a state of mind where you also know what you want in a relationship. And that is the third sort of part that we want to get into here, is the
really
importance.
knowing what you want.
What is it that you want?
Yeah.
Yes. And here I would say, like, don't settle. Like,
so important.
You are allowed to want an amazing partner.
Yeah.
You are allowed to have high standards.
Have high standards, seriously. Yeah, but honestly, like, high standards, have high standards. How many times I heard people tell me that I should lower my standards, that I shouldn't be so picky, because I was quite picky. Yeah, I really think having high standards is absolutely important. This will protect you from lowly experiences, experiences that you really don't need, experiences that you don't. Experiences that are beneath you. Yeah, honestly. Yeah.
Know yourself, know your worth.
Yeah.
Dare to have high standards.
Yeah.
Which is really...
It's just a protection, you know, you're just protecting yourself from people that would treat you less than you deserve. So having high standards, I mean, we're not talking about expecting a perfect partner, expecting someone that's flawless, you know, obviously not. We're all flawed. We all have our character flaws, you know, but you should expect someone that is compatible with you. You know, you should want someone and not settle for someone that is not compatible with you, and someone that you have this deep connection with, you know?
Yeah. So we're talking about values, right?
Yeah.
Interest, you don't have to be interested in all of the same things, but you definitely want some of your interests to align.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think very importantly, you want your consciousness to align, because...
State of consciousness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
State of consciousness. And we have multiple, right? So we have a physical state of consciousness, we have an instinctual state of consciousness, an emotional, a concrete mental, an abstract mental, and spiritual state of consciousness. And you want to be able to essentially love make on every level, right? So if you are a person who expect to evolve psychologically and spiritually, which I think you are, since you are on this channel, which is very much about that. That's what occultism very much is about. It's about taking conscious charge of your evolution. If you expect to grow a lot as a person, you want a person who is also growth-minded and who can follow you, who you can grow with, who you can journey with up this great stairwell of the universe.
Yeah. It always takes two to tango.
Yes, take two to tango.
And
yes.
honestly, this might be kind of harsh to accept about relationships, is the fact that it takes two to tango. It can't just be you putting in the work. You have to find a partner that is equally willing to put in the work.
And they gotta show up.
They gotta show up.
They gotta show proof.
You know, a relationship is a 50-50 thing. It's a two-way street. You know, it's an equal give and take. And another thing that is extremely important, especially for women, since they are the ones that are, you know, mainly being approached by so many different men, is your intuition and following your intuition and knowing what your intuition is, you know? I remember a time when I really struggled with not really knowing when it was fear and when it was intuition. Like, say, there was a guy and I didn't really know, like, is it a match or is it not a match? I wasn't really sure because I didn't really know if it's fear or intuition, if, you know, I couldn't really tell.
Yeah, that's another thing that we want to mention here. It's okay on your path towards finding your soulmate to be in a relationship that is not compatible, that is not healthy, where there is not this pure, authentic, spiritual connection. Because sometimes to find a key, you have to look at every place where the key isn't, you know, in order to find it. So if you've been in a relationship that wasn't what you hoped it would be, or if you end up in a relationship that isn't what you hoped it would be, that's okay. That's also part of the process as well.
Yeah.
Right?
The growth process, yeah.
Because we've both been in a relationship that was not the right for us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we beat ourselves up about it, right? We beat ourselves up, we're like, how can we be so stupid, right? But hey, that was part of the journey.
Like, coming back to this whole point that I mentioned with fear or intuition, in that relationship, I didn't really know whether or not I should be with the guy, if it was like aligned or not. Because, you know, I have struggled with opening up and so on and so forth, and feeling very afraid to open up to someone and being so vulnerable. So I was kind of just like, is it just me being scared to open up, or me being anxious and having all kinds of anxious thoughts of like worst case scenarios and so on and so forth? Or is it genuine intuition, you know? Now looking back, I know that was intuition. It's painfully obvious now. But, you know, you only know that once you've been through it and once you know, experience the opposite.
Exactly.
You know?
And it was the same thing with me, right?
Yeah.
My intuition knew almost from the get-go that it wasn't right.
That's the thing. You know right away.
You know right away, but then it takes you like months, sometimes longer, to verify that intuition.
Yep.
But you need the empirical evidence. Sometimes that's okay. We are humans. We're not in this, you know, always heightened state of awareness, but we still have that connection to intuition. And it does tell us, like, this is not right for you. If you can really hone in on that and be like take that message and be like, all right, fair enough. And then, you know, bring it to an end. All the more power to you. If you need to go through some frustration and pain and all that to find out, that's fine as well. That's only going to connect you deeper to your intuition.
Yeah.
So it's totally fine going through being in relationships that are not soulmateships. Because guess what? That might be a stepping stone to that exact thing.
Yeah, I really feel like that. Once I ended that relationship, I was really like, that is, like, I'm done. I'm not doing this again. Like, not the same mistakes again, period. I will not settle, and I know what my intuition feels like. I know what it feels like when I know deep in my being that this is not the right person for me, you know? And I was absolutely fixed on not, you know, doing that again, and really trusting that feeling, you know, and trusting that there is a relationship out there where I would just feel at ease, where I would just feel like I can totally be myself, where I would just feel safe, where I would just, you know, not feel like constantly like anxious or worry about something or whatever, you know, but just, you know, where there would be this deep draw and safety and all that stuff. And now I know this is absolutely real.
So like Alexander Lowen, who was a bioenergeticist, he says that ego is tension. Right? He focused a lot on psychosomatics, right? So he says when you're an ego, there is tension there, right? Because you are holding up and you're basically wearing an armor, right? And that actually literally requires muscle contractions and whatnot, right? Or carrying yourself in a certain way. So you know when a relationship is not true, you won't feel relaxed. So that's a key signal right there. You're not relaxed. You're not at peace.
Yeah.
So of course, if you're in a relationship where you cannot relax, where there's just something off.
Yeah, but you can't really be yourself. Or
Exactly, where you cannot be yourself. Yes, on tiptoe, eggshells.
Yeah, anything like that.
You feel like you're walking through a minefield. Yeah, that's not it.
Yeah.
So recognize that, detect that, and then get out and continue on the journey. And so that's also a key part of it, being able to let go of what is not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be very stern here as well. And sometimes you have to break some eggs to make an omelet. And sometimes some feelings are gonna get hurt. Your feelings, another person's feelings. That's what that is. We're all on a journey. It's not always pretty, but it can be instructional if you learn from it. And with that, let's. It's fine. Okay. All right. So let's get into some practices, shall we? And for this section of the video, we have split the practices into practices for women and practices for men. And of course, ladies first, my love. So shall we start with the ladies?
Yes. Okay, so since I've been an avid student of astrology for about 5 years now, I'm definitely going to sprinkle in some astrology here. So essentially for women, if they want to attract a better husband, they have to work on their Jupiter qualities. Since Jupiter represents the husband in astrology, specifically Vedic astrology, there's like different karakas, different indicators for different people in your life. And the natural indicator or karaka for the husband is Jupiter. So Jupiter is the husband planet. Yeah, so essentially it's all about developing those Jupiterian qualities within yourself so that they are being reflected back to you, you know, in a positive way. You know what I mean? It's basically like manifestation. That's essentially just what it is. And, you know, Jupiterian qualities, what are those? You know, practically, what can you do? I mean, this is all about following your inspiration, following your joy, you know, following your purpose or feeling purposeful in your life, you know. Ideally also having a spiritual connection, you know, maybe a spiritual practice where you connect to something deeper, seeing meaning in your life. Also enjoying the small things in life, you know, really enjoying and connecting to life on a deep, deep level.
And also like, you know, learn to value wisdom as well, right? Because ideally you would want like a wise king for your husband, for your partner, you know?
And, you know, once again, comes back to this whole point of have something going for yourself in your life and don't try and make a man the absolute purpose of your life. Because I see women do that again and again, you know, where they think they have to find their husband and then suddenly their entire life is going to fall into place and it's just going to be perfect and their life is going to make sense and they have all the meaning in the world and you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's Jupiter for women, you know, and then for men, that is Venus. Venus in astrology represents the wife.
Because as we all know, all women are from Venus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So men really want, I mean, essentially, like, what do men want in a wife is kind of Venus. You know, if you think about it, they want a beautiful wife. They want someone that is very enjoyable to be around, you know, charismatic, kind, nurturing, all these good traits, right?
And also, it's not just enjoyable to be around, but who enjoys life.
Yeah.
And we want our woman to enjoy life, to be happy, to luxuriate in this experience.
Yes. So if a man wants to attract the best possible Venus, you know, the best wife possible, so to say, he has to develop those Venusian qualities.
Yeah, it's the same situation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's essentially manifestation. So you have to develop those Venusian qualities. What are those, practically speaking? Those are things like, I mean, for men, those are things like, you know, developing their devotional nature, right? So being devoted, also being romantic, being a gentleman.
Sensual.
Yeah, sensual, being able to enjoy life yourself, being able to enjoy the feminine arts.
Basically, all the stuff that we see in like romantic movies, right?
Yeah.
Men who actually have cultivated these feminine qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously that will make them very attractive to women. Like we all know that a man that is that is kind of in contact with his feminine side is going to be extremely attractive to women, because women will be able to relate to the man, and they will feel like, most importantly, the man will be able to relate to them. So they will feel seen, and they will have this beautiful connection.
So to say, speak the same language, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really relate to the woman as a woman.
Yeah.
And I would say that, yeah. No, you go ahead.
Another aspect is also being materially secure, like Venus is also a very material planet.
Has to do with money, right?
Has to do with money, exactly. Yeah, so material security, obviously also an important thing. For, I think, obvious reasons, honestly. If you think about a wife being, pregnant and not being able to join the workforce while being pregnant and while taking care of the baby or babies, someone has to make sure that materially everything is like smooth and running. You know what I mean? So obviously this is also an important aspect of it. Yeah. And
I think that segues nicely into the next practice for men that I would highly recommend. And this is something that I did, which was absolutely key in finding Angy. And that is to cultivate a reverential attitude towards the feminine. There are two ways to go about this. The first way is to hold women in general in high regard, to value women, to see women, to adore women, to respect women, and to hold them again in a high positive regard. And this goes for every woman. It goes for young women, it goes for old women, it goes for housewives, it goes for OnlyFans models. It goes for everyone.
For women you don't find attractive,
Women you don't find attractive, women you do find attractive. Basically, just having your eyes open to how wonderful a creature women are. And so this goes for every woman that you come across. So that is a way to really cultivate that. Another way is a more mystical way, and that is goddess worship. The way you do this basically, the way that I did it, was to read mythology, to read different stories, and to familiarize myself with different pantheons, Egyptian, Greek, Celtic, whatever, and then finding a goddess that really resonates with you. And then holding the image of her in your mind. You can even buy a statue of her if need be, or a piece of art, but having that image of her in your mind and contemplating her, sending loving devotion towards her. And that is a way of adoring the feminine as well. And in fact, either of these avenues of adoration for the feminine will land you in the same place, because all women are Isis, and Isis is all women. I did both. You can do either one of them, but doing them in combination, I mean, why not? You'll really get a bang for your buck. And but if you have more secular temperament, then maybe the first one is more adequately suited for you. But if you watch this video so far and on this channel, then I'm sure that you have, as a man, a goddess worshipper within you.
And what I found very curious about the whole thing, I mean, you told me about that in detail, and what I found interesting about it is that you had such a deep connection to the moon specifically.
Should we just go into like how I was adoring the moon? Because I would literally literally look at the moon. Right? Whenever the moon was out, I would look at the moon. And I also did a ritual with the moon as well, a lunar ritual. And I was reading about Artemis, and I was reading about and studying Isis, who's also very much associated with the moon as well. So yeah, it was through observing the moon itself in the heavens, and it was about reading about and studying and contemplating these female lunar figures in the different pantheons.
Yeah, and I found that very interesting because when you look at your chart, your 7th house ruler is the moon, which, if you don't know, the 7th house is associated with your partner. And essentially, if he wants to sort of get into goddess worship but doesn't really know where to start, if he doesn't really feel connected to a goddess specifically or whatever,
or doesn't know which one,
or doesn't know which one, right? Or whatever, you can actually look at your 7th house, especially at your 7th house ruler, for example, and you can kind of build that relationship with that certain energy, you know. So for you, that was the moon, so it was definitely like those lunar energies, and he felt very, you know, you felt very attracted to those lunar energies. And surprise, surprise, I have a lot of lunar energy within myself. I mean, I'm a lot in Cancer. Let's say that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would even like talk to my friends about this. Like, I'm looking for my lunar girl, right?
Yeah.
I would literally use that phrase.
Yeah.
So this was very much in my conscious mind.
Even the way you envisioned it, and I mean, I guess that's not like a typical, like, well, I mean, maybe. I mean, lunar people tend to be quite pale, for example, and they can have
sort of long hair.
They can have full hair, long hair. Don't have to, obviously, but like you often kind of see that.
Yes.
So kind of a typical image.
Yeah. So the way that goddess worship can really lead you to your partner is that your partner will have many things in common with the goddess that you are worshiping, the goddess that you are focusing on. You
can kind of view it as if that goddess that you're praying to or goddess that you're worshiping is sending you
sending you one of her priestesses, if you will. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a high priestess. I wanted my lunar woman. And even just looking at Angy, she's very lunar, right? She has a bunch of things going on in Cancer, right? Yeah, so astrologically speaking, she's a very lunar girl. Ethereal nature, a graceful, almost like otherworldly quality as well. And that I remember the first photo I saw of you as well was also you being like next to the beach, right? Next to the ocean. And
yeah, true.
Again, also a very lunar image as well. Yeah. So by really focusing on the image of the goddess, then you will be all the better equipped at recognizing her priestesses. We have some more practices for the ladies.
Yes. So another thing I was doing was essentially really actively looking for examples of great men, you know, because let's face it, if you look around, you won't, like, at least I haven't really found many good examples of that in my surroundings. So what I did is I created a gallery on my phone, and I put in all kinds of men that I admired in some way, you know, that I looked up to in some way or whatever. Men like my teachers, prominent teachers that I was having, like spiritual teachers or cult teachers or whatever, or just like men that I would see on the internet that are in a relationship with women that I look up to and that have like a really beautiful relationship, you know. So just men that I look up to in some way, you know, that have like cultivated masculine energy in a really nice way. Those men weren't all people that I was like attracted to or anything like that. It was really just they had something about them having cultivated their masculine energy in such a way that I found very beautiful, you know, and very inspiring. So I just created this.
Although I believe that a certain someone was on there.
Oh yeah, the certain someone was on there, of course. When we were still texting and having like these extremely long conversations about all kinds of spiritual occult topics, like literally texts like this on Instagram, just back and forth.
It was like we were esoteric colleagues, and we were just going off immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he was definitely on there.
So you did this after we started writing?
I did it before. I did it before we started writing, just to sort of train myself to see masculinity in a beautiful light, you know, to see that there is great men out there, you know, that they do exist. They are out there. They might be very rare, but they are out there, you know? Kind of just to reprogram myself, rewire myself. So I did that, and anytime I would kind of get really, you know, really disappointed with men, I would go into that folder. I would look at those men. I would be like, Angy, these men exist. And I would kind of also, like you did, honestly, create this or have this reverential attitude towards men and masculinity, especially those types of men, you know, men that I actually looked up to. And once again, those men didn't have to be, like, obviously they weren't all like some, like, people that I was romantically into or whatever, anything like that. No. You know, it was just that they had some traits that I was looking up to, specifically also relating to masculinity, you know. So that helped me.
All right. As the last thing for this video, shall we talk about the ritual that you did?
Because that was honestly crazy. That was just insane.
Shall we lay the groundwork and then
yeah,
get into
so
it?
Essentially what I did is I did a little magical ritual. I created a altar space in my room. I'm sitting in front of it, so I'm looking at it. I created an altar space with the feminine side and the masculine side. And kind of just putting on this altar whatever evoked, like, that energy that I was, for the feminine side, trying to really embody myself as a woman. And then on the masculine side, really, like, have things on my altar that symbolize that energy of masculinity that I'm seeking to draw into my life. And this was primarily for a romantic partner, but it was also just in general, for people in general, for my life in general, like the feminine and masculine energy I like to deal with. So I created my altar space, and what I did then was one night, and I did it specifically on the new moon in my 7th house, which is a very powerful time as well for, you know, calling in a partner as well. New moon being new beginnings and you planting the seeds, and the 7th house being partnerships. So I thought, why not? It was a great time for that. So on that new moon, I was sitting down one night and really getting into that energy of what would it feel like to be with my soulmate, you know? Really envisioning it, really feeling it, getting into it really, really deeply. And I remember that day I went into that so deep. Like, I felt it. I felt like he was right next to me. And I was writing down all kinds of traits, all kinds of things that were very important to me. That's not like extremely specific things, but just in general, things that I knew that were important for me in a partnership, you know, and in a partner. And funny enough, what I wrote down matches him, matches you so, like I read it after.
You read it for me.
I read it for you, and it was just insane. Like, I have read it like.
And I will say there were some specific things as well.
There were some specific things as well. Yeah, absolutely. It was just incredible, you know.
And it was a big list as well.
It was a big list. It was 2 pages long.
Yeah.
And really, I think the biggest thing was really just envisioning it, really seeing it, really getting into that energy.
And you're in that space for like, what, 2 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours.
Yeah, really being in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I put that under my little altar space.
So we have right here at the Osiris part of the altar, we have Isis.
Yeah, that's a new addition, but yeah.
New addition though. Yes.
But yeah, and then, so I did that, right? And then I kid you not, 2 months after, he just suddenly appears. He just suddenly appears, you know?
Yeah.
In my DMs, slid into my DMs.
Gotta do what you gotta do. I think that is a beautiful way of ending this video. Once again, like, begin with cultivating that deep relationship with yourself, right? Self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-improvement where need be. And from that place of connection to yourself, you can express yourself, right? So this is where you really step into an authentic life, where you show up as yourself and really shine your light like that lighthouse so that your soulmate can find you. At the same time, while you're broadcasting who you are to the world so that a special someone can find you, you also want to know who you want to find you or you want to find.
Like you need to be very firm with your
Yes.
boundaries, you know?
Be firm with your boundaries, dare to have high standards, right? Recognize your worth and recognize what you deserve and what you want and what is right for you. And then, of course, you can go about different ways of attracting that partner, right? So that's kind of like the foundation. But then we have these practices as well, right? If you're a woman, cultivate those Jupiterian qualities. If you're a man, cultivate the Venusian qualities. That way you will be doing manifestation in a very powerful, astrologically aligned way.
Exactly, and like we said as well, the reverence and all that goes along with developing the Venus or Jupiter qualities. So essentially, you're revering those qualities as well, you know?
Yeah, and then for the guys, have a high, hold women in high regard. And if you want to practice a goddess worshiper, find a goddess such as the one that is connected with your 7th house, right?
Yeah, that energy connected to your 7th house. Yeah, you could look at that.
Yeah. Go through some mythologies, what have you, find one that is suited to you, build up an image of that goddess, and you'll be all the more aware of what type of woman that you want and that you want to attract. And
also, I think this is extremely important for men as well, like to know what you want. You know, like there's so many men out there that just like, first and best,
first and best, right?
First and best.
I just need two legs, right? And
there's so many stories that I've heard of men settling and then being very aware of the fact that they've settled. And actually still being hung up on some other woman or something like that. I mean, this is apparently very common, which is, I think that's crazy. So very, very attractive if a man knows exactly what he wants, you know, in a woman. And if he isn't just like easy and just, you know.
That's masculine right there, right? It's not masculine to be flippant and unfocused. It's masculine to be focused and know what you want and then going after that. And once you see it, And, you know, as a woman, like if you're that object of his desire and he really knows what he wants, he's not just like everywhere with his desires. Leaking out all his energy, right?
Exactly. That has a completely different energy to it and it will feel completely different. And as a woman, you'll just like it just will be completely completely different thing, you know?
Exactly.
Will make hard to put into words, honestly.
No, guys, you gotta know what you want in a woman, right? And then once you find her, you go for her, and if she wants you, you know, then magic happens. So and you ladies, practice your witch, right? Practice your
witchcraft.
your magic ritual, and see what happens. And
and also what I want to mention too about that magical ritual was also like there was no strings attached, so to say, as in I need to find him in this time or whatever, or I like need to find him right away. I didn't think that I would find anyone in like the next 5 years or whatever.
Even since like in your 20s, you didn't anticipate.
I didn't really think I would find someone early, really. I thought that would take quite a few more years or whatever. Plot twist, big plot twist.
Yes.
So I kind of just did that and then just let it go. And I think that's a very, very crucial aspect.
Let go and let God, right?
Let go and let God. Very, very important.
Have faith. Trust the universe. If you have any questions about, you know, the inner work, regarding, you know, leading an authentic life, regarding getting clarity of what you want, and of course regarding these practices, just drop a comment down below in the comment section, and either me or Angie will get back to you. You're also welcome to write me on my Occult Observer email, which is in the overview of the channel. And with that, thank you so much for joining us today. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Until next time.
Each time